Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to the podcast. I got so much to get into today. I don't have a lot of time to just, bullshit with you. So let's get it going. Today, first of all, I want to dedicate it to the dumbasses. Let's go ahead and put the first picture up here, my man, Corey. Today, I'm dedicating this show to the dumb masses. And it's funny because sports and politics, and I'm not going to get into politics, don't freak out. But it's interesting to me because sports and politics do share one very interesting thing in common, which is that a lot of times there's no facts needed in order to give my loud, stupid opinion. I am frustrated, I'm angry, or I have something I want to say, and you know what? I don't really need the information in order to expel it. It is really the only true two things I can say that coincide with each other. Like, man, it's a fascinating thing that happens there where both of those worlds, the one thing that does intertwine is just this emotion, and both by the people that are in it and both by the people that support it as well, which is also a nice little commonality there. So today I'm dedicating things to the dumb masses as I get a little clever with you there, but just the idea that I don't really need, the facts. It kind of gets in the way. I've got misplaced trauma and misplaced rage, and I have an opinion about something, and I want to scream it. And you can ask him and be like, well, would you like, the actual facts? No, I'm good. I got some anger I need to get out of my system, and I just want to put it out there into the world. So today I'm applying that to the NCAA, the NBA, WNBA. It's going to get into race, gender. We're talking about AI. Hopefully I want to get to that. So lots of things to break down. And first thing I want to get into, it was a solar eclipse. And let's get to the next one. I'm going to call this part here the solar eclipse because we just had one. And I don't know, I didn't get to see it. I was too busy doing stuff. Corey, I don't know, give me thumbs up, thumbs down. Did you check out the solar eclipse? You didn't see it either. A lot of y'all did. But it's interesting to me because the solar eclipse, the NCAA women had one as well. But I mean, when you look at a solar eclipse, this is where the smaller little moon is able to block out the sun, the much larger big bad sun. For one part in time, for one small short period of time, the little moon, because all the things line up perfectly, is able to block out the big bad sun just for one little second. Everything, again, has to line up perfect. There's a lot of moving parts. It is this rare, beautiful cosmic occurrence that doesn't happen very often. The last solar eclipse was like 6 years ago. They said the next one, probably in North America, you're not going to be able to see one for the next 20 years. And in those moments, you have a couple choices on how you look at the solar eclipse. You can look at it through the right lens, and you can appreciate this rare, beautiful thing and share it with others and kind of have that shared experience. Or you can look at it with the wrong lens. You can blur your vision. You can create blind spots. You can cause permanent damage and turn something negative out of something that was beautiful and rare and cool. So do you see where I'm going with this? Do you see what the podcaster's cooking? The NCAA women just had their solar eclipse. It's rare. It doesn't happen very often. But for one little shining moment, because everything just aligned perfectly, that little moon was able to block out that big bad sun. And you had two choices of how you could look at it. You could look at this and go, wow, this is cool. This is something unique. We all get to be part of this together and share it. Or you could look at it with the wrong lens. And you can blur your vision, and you can get blind spots, and you can find ways to turn something beautiful and cool into something completely negative in a way for you to just create more hate, more anger, more nonsense. That is kind of what basically happened here. We just had the solar eclipse in NCAA women's basketball. The television ratings that they got for this is why I'm using this metaphor here of the moon blocking out the sun. You don't see this. You just don't see where the moon blocks out the sun unless everything lines up. And in this situation, the ratings for the women's basketball, now that it's all over, we've gotten all the information, didn't just beat the men, they crushed them. They didn't just crush the men, they crushed all men's sports, mainly basketball, going back for years. Just so you know, so the old NCAA women's college basketball records before this last one, last year we had, according to the latest new Nielsen ratings, we had a 9.9 with a peak of 12. And the record all time before those ratings were kind of put together, they said 11.83 million. That was 1983 USC. So we were looking, the record used to be 9.9 up to 11.8, depending on which measuring system you want to go by. So starting this year, we get to the rematch in the Elite Eight, which I loved. That got to 12.3. I was already pumped. I was excited. I'm like, yeah, good, 12.3. They beat all their records. Then we got to the Final Four, where we got Paige and Caitlin. Then we got up to 14.2. Then we got to the championship game, and they got up to 18.7. 7 million with a peak of 24 million viewers. I don't really know if y'all understand just quite how significant 18.7 and 24 million is. Just the most unbelievable solar eclipse, rare occurrence. You're not going to probably see this again for a very long time. This was insane. They got 18.7 to watch women's basketball, Iowa versus South Carolina. They got 17,000 people to pack the stadium to watch them practice. This is the level of eyeballs they got. If you can run this video here for me, Corey, this is up next. We were able to get 17,000 people, not to watch the game. They sold out a practice. They got 18.7 million people to watch the game, 24 million. Just so you know, that crushed every NCAA men's game you can think of, including the final. They only got 14 to their 18.7. They beat every World Series in television ratings over the last 5 years. They beat every NBA Finals in the last 8 years. The last one that beat them was Steph versus LeBron, Cavs versus the Warriors. It beat every Daytona 500 the last 15 years, and it beat every Masters in the last 20 years. The last time a Masters got more ratings than Iowa versus South Carolina in the women's college basketball final was a little guy named Tiger Woods in 2001. And that is exactly what this was. I don't care what anybody says. This is so just perfectly equivalent to when Tiger Woods was able to take, golf into an entirely different, stratosphere and universe, and being able to get eyeballs to it that we just didn't see and, before, and we really haven't seen after. I mean, there was that run where he was great and they had all their ratings in the world. And then after that, we still, and yes, there's the LIV and the PGA split, and you can give me a lot of reasons, but the main thing is the fact that Tiger Woods and their solar eclipse has come and it's gone. This was the exact same thing that happened in women's basketball. It is absolutely phenomenal and cannot be understated that because of Iowa, Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, UConn, and everybody else, South Carolina, everyone be able to get their job done there, to get to 18.7 million, 24 million peak viewers, and beat every World Series in the last 5 years, beat every NBA Finals other than the Steph Curry-LeBron match from 8 years ago, to beat every Daytona 500 for the last 15, to beat every Masters in the last 20. The only one to beat them is Tiger Woods. To crush every men's game by a significant amount of millions is just something you're not going to see all the time. So we really should just all sit back and go, wow, that was cool. That was fun, wasn't it? Man, that was really enjoyable. Nope, not us. Not us. We got to hate on this shit because that's just, there's just, again, you look through the solar eclipse, you look at the wrong lens. You know what? I got blurred vision. My eye hurts. I don't like this anymore. So we decided to start hating. And of course, the main one, the tiger of this situation, Caitlin Clark, caught all the hate. And so let me get into a couple parts of the dumbass hate here, I want to call this. Again, I'm dedicating this to the dumb masses today. The first part is that, well, she didn't win the ring. And let's start with this one and knock this one out the box. This constant comment I saw, even though Caitlin, again, in all 3 games between her Elite Eight, Final Four, and Finals, and yes, there were other stars there, but let's face it, the Caitlin's what brought the eyeballs. She was the Tiger Woods here. And the fact that she was able to crush the women's record consecutively from Elite Eight to Final Four to National Championship to something we'll probably not see for like a solar eclipse for the next 20 years, you still saw the comments, well, she didn't win. She didn't win the ring. She didn't win it all. So therefore, she ain't shit. Her run ain't shit. None of this is worth a damn. This brings me to the next segment, and we got to get this one up here, Corey. College ain't the pros. And again, if you want to be a dumbass and have a dumbass opinion, you can have it, and I support you, and I want you to just say it with pride. But if you want to be informed on why that opinion is truly stupid, college ain't the pros. It's not the same thing. The college system versus the pros, college is an unfair, rigged system where the rich get richer. This is not like professional sports where there are checks and balances, there are salary caps, the worst teams get to pick first. There's all these ways of kind of being able to try their best to create an even playing field. Now, general managers will screw this up all the time, but still, they have rules in place of like, okay, if you're the worst team in the world, you get the first pick. If, you have too much stars, you have to pay them all this money, you probably can't keep them all. There's ways to kind of make sure that everyone at least hopefully gets a pretty fair shot at this. College is not that. College is the opposite. College is the rich getting richer. College is the picture I'm showing you here, because imagine if Tom Brady and during the Super Bowl Patriots run had an unlimited salary cap and got all the first-round picks. Imagine the New England Patriots, as they were winning Super Bowls, get to say, you know what, you have all the money, you have no limit, you can buy every free agent you want, and oh, by the way, in the first round, you have the first pick, third pick, fifth pick, 11th pick, 27th, and 10 second-rounders as well. That is how college works versus the pros. It's just not. It's an unfair system, and there's nothing wrong with it. I still enjoy watching it, but for you to have the dipstick opinion that you're trying to give me, this dismissive nonsense. Well, she didn't win. She set all the records and she got all the eyeballs, but she didn't win. Therefore, it ain't shit. She ain't shit. You can be dumb. I'm dedicating this show to dumbasses. If you want to have the opinion, have it. But I'm just trying to explain to you, college ain't the pros. South Carolina, the team that she lost to, and the team that she's the only one to beat in the last 2 years, just so you know, South Carolina, this is kind of, we'll bring it all into a nutshell here. South Carolina has won 2 of the last 3 titles. They should have won 3 in a row, but Caitlin and Iowa pulled off that miracle blip. They are 74-1 in their last 75 games over the last 2 seasons. Over the last 3 seasons, they're 109-3. They've had, for the last 3 years, the top 2 recruiting classes in the entire country. They had a record 5 picks from just last year's team go into the WNBA draft. Now, that sounds like a lot, but even to add more to it, the WNBA only has 36 picks total. They had 5 of them. They also now are going to have their top 3 pick in Cardoso, the big 6'7", just huge girl, the complete monster force that nobody could really stop. She was also part of the team this year. Versus an Iowa team who had never been to the Final Four in the last 40 years. They've gone once to the Final Four in the last 40 years. And outside of Caitlin Clark, there was not one girl on that team that would make the rotation at South Carolina, who's full of WNBA future players and All-Americans. That just to hopefully give you an idea. There is nobody outside of Caitlin who would have got a minute on that roster. They were too good. They had too many stars because they're South freaking Carolina with their top 2 recruiting class. They're 5 WNBA players from last season. You know what I mean? That level of talent, that's not a fair game. That is not an easy way to go, oh, well, therefore X beat Y, so X is better. Like, again, have it. If you want to have a dumb opinion, I'm not going to stop you, but I'm just trying to explain. College ain't the pros, man. This is a totally different ball game. So the ain't shit argument because they don't have a ring is, I guess, just say you're dumb. Just say I'm dumb, I'm uninformed, but I still want my opinion, and I want to, again, misplaced anger and rage, and I want to say some stuff here. But, to that argument, I guess Dwayne Wade in college wasn't shit when he went on his amazing run and he beat Kentucky. He didn't win the ring. Bo Kimball and LMU here had their miracle run when they finally lost to the UNLV Running Rebels, who were unbelievable. I guess they ain't shit. Larry Bird, when he took little Indiana State to the NCAA Finals and lost to Magic, I guess he ain't shit. Steph Curry and Jimmer Fredette and their crazy Elite 8 runs with their one-man bands in Davidson and BYU, they didn't win the title, so I guess they ain't shit. Akeem and David Robinson had great college careers, but they never won a ring, so apparently they ain't shit. Do you see where I'm going with this? Like, in the pros, there is the argument that makes sense because, again, there are things that are designed between salary caps and making sure the worst teams get the best picks and doing things to make sure that everything is as fair as we can possibly make it. College is not. College is free market. The rich can get as rich as they want, and usually the richest ones get the richer and richer and richer because everybody wants to join the already easy road to winning program. And I'm not mad at recruits for doing that. I'm just saying that's the way the system is created. Obviously, if you're a high school recruit and you're trying to go to the WNBA, your goal is, I want to go to the best team. I want to win titles. I want to learn. I want to be around the best players. I want to have the best options, and I want to have the easiest road to the WNBA. So you're going to go for the already paved road that's a South Carolina or UConn or Tennessee back in the day. But when those teams then beat these little one-woman band teams that make these miracle runs, to get all dismissive because you have other things that you're mad about and go, oh, well, see, they didn't win, so therefore it doesn't mean a damn thing. It's dumb. It's dumb. And just like, even on the men's side, let me flip to the men's real quick. Purdue and Zach Edey there. Edey was like top 3 ever tournament scoring and had an unbelievable tournament run. He ran against UConn. UConn is exactly what I'm talking about as far as they're now the back-to-back champions, and just this year, they won by the biggest plus-minus margin ever in NCAA history. They're arguably the greatest college team ever constructed, at least by the numbers. And if you were to sit there and go, well, Zach Edey didn't win with Purdue, so therefore he ain't shit. Again, you could say it. You could say it. I mean, but again, I'm just going to repeat this one more time. South Carolina had the last 2 or 3 titles. They are 74-1 in their last 75. They're 109-3 in their last 3 seasons. They have a top 2 recruiting class the last 2 years. They had a record 5 picks last year in a WNBA draft that only has 36 picks total. They have a top 3 pick going this year, and they beat an Iowa team who, outside of Caitlin Clark, had nobody on their roster that would even start for or play for a minute on the South Carolina team, and have not been to a Final Four other than one time back in like 1983. College ain't the pros. Again, just imagine if, Tom Brady and the Patriots, just imagine if Brady and the Patriots during their Super Bowl run had an unlimited salary cap, and every draft, every year, they got to have like the first pick, the third pick, the 7th pick, the 9th pick, the 11th pick, and just were able to run that back over and over and over and over. And if other teams lost to them, would you have the nerve to go, well, he ain't shit? I don't think so. So, I just have to, I had to get that one off my chest here. So the whole idea, say it if you want, it's cute. I see people say dumb stuff all the time passionately, and you have every right to it. But college ain't the pros. All right, next one. And this one's more interesting to me because I was actually able to get my mom and my girlfriend on this conversation. The second part of the hate of Caitlin Clark and the solar eclipse and the unbelievable historic television ratings run, what I found out, again, is that a lot of times, man, women, you're your own worst enemy. Ladies, you are your own worst enemy sometimes. Go back one more time. I got to see the picture here. I mean, it is unbelievable. Sometimes I tell you what, if you ever need to take down a woman, just get another woman. I mean, the only people publicly, there was maybe a little blip by Jay Williams, and even that was still sandwiched with some nice comments. The only people publicly who went out of their way during this historic television run of ratings and attention and all sorts of, this ability to elevate the game, the only one who went against them were the other women. It was fascinating. It was nothing but women that were trying to tear it down or say it was overrated or say that this isn't really that big a deal. And, if I was playing there was no men doing this. Matter of fact, you had men's full support. During these historic television ratings, just so you know, men were 65% of the viewership. Shaquille O'Neal just recently was sitting out there saying, I am not watching the men's. I am watching the women's tournament. I think Angel Reese is the best LSU athlete of all time. LeBron tweeted, and I quote, if you don't rock with Caitlin, you're a flat out hater, and y'all need to stay as far away from those people as you can possibly be. This was all love from the men's side, the so-called, the patriarchy and, men are holding down women. We were all here just having a blast. I've been talking about this damn tournament longer than I've talked about anything in a long-ass time. It's over, and I still got more stuff I want to say about it. I have not enjoyed, a single basketball, few weeks, maybe more ever than a couple, my favorite teams get into championship run. You got LeBron saying that Caitlin is great, and if you're a hater, you need to stay away from me. You got Shaq saying LSU, I love it. I love the women's game. Angel Reese might be the best LSU athlete of all time. 65% of the entire historic ratings were all men. Meanwhile, all the women that had any camera or a public opinion did everything they could to tear it down, whether it was Lynette Woodard, whether it was Breanna Stewart and Rebecca Lobo saying things like, oh, well, you got to win a ring in order to be a GOAT. And both of them know better about the discrepancy between the top schools and the bottom schools. If anyone shouldn't have, a little bit of, hesitation to say that it should have been them. Lynette Woodard, instead of being like, oh, that's really great for women's basketball, good for her, she had to play with a man's ball and had no 3-point line. And fair enough, but what happened? Because a lot of times this is also, by the way, a lot of the same people who would tell me that, the women's game doesn't get enough love, doesn't get enough support, it needs less hate, it needs less negativity, it needs more attention. No. And then you got all the guys to come support it in historic levels, and the only people I saw just literally talk shit about it and try to tear it down were other women. It was just insecure, salty jealousy. And again, I talked to my mom, my girlfriend. I had to get some females' opinions on this. And they're kind of explaining to me, we're just wired different. And whether or why the cause is can be a whole nother debate for a whole nother show. But, with the boys club and the things and kind of the way sometimes thing goes down, there's a lot more apparently of an attitude that a rising tide will raise all ships. Where with a lot of women in the workplace or in any level of competitiveness or competition, there's an idea, and this is again from my girlfriend, mom, and other people, this is not from me. They've said, we all dealt with this, whether it was workplace or somewhere else, that, a lot of times with women, it feels like they think that greatness or success is a scarcity, that there's only so much of it to go around, that you have to kind of take, because if someone, gets theirs, that you got to take yours back. You can't let them have theirs because that's going to take away from you. There's only so much of this to go around. You can't just expand and lift without the fear of losing yours. And so it created this environment where I just sat back fascinated, because I'm like, God, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, a lot of the women I'm about to bring up, and I got the receipts, were sitting there saying with a straight face, it's just not fair. We don't get the love. We don't get the attention. And then you finally don't just get the attention. You get historic solar eclipse levels of attention from all sorts of men, and nobody on the men's side was saying anything negative. And almost every time I turned to a woman talk about it, boy, they had to tear Caitlyn down. They had to talk some shit. They had to get their little point across and be petty and bitter and jealous and salty. And it's interesting. It's interesting. I'm not going to lie. This historic ratings and the chance to uplift, I had nothing but women try to sit there and explain to me why what I was watching was overrated. And again, they just say it's just a different attitude. So again, I brought up Woodard. I brought up Brianna Stewart and Rebecca Lobo. I got to focus on one here, and I'm going to get to the video in just a second. Diani Turasi, UConn former great and still WNBA great and a legendary player. But Diani Turasi, man, who's shitting your cereal? Holy Lord. This woman was on ESPN. So they did the telecast, for this is also, again, I haven't seen this done very often. They did like Monday Night Football, where they have the Manning brothers do the main, thing of the Monday Night Football game. And then they'll cut to on ESPN2. You can watch the Manning brothers, former NFL greats, kind of discuss the game, have more like a podcast, free flowing format, and kind of get into it. So they tried to do that with the women's national title game. And so they brought in Sue Bird and Diani frickin' Taurasi. And I promise you, as I continue on this women are your own worst enemy sometimes, I promise you that during this historic ratings and all these producers and directors seeing this and smelling the money, I promise you, there was not a man behind the scenes going, y'all should really try to talk as much shit about Caitlyn as you can. You should try your best to tear her down in snide, petty little comments instead of trying to say like, man, isn't this great? Isn't this fun to watch? Like I compared her to Tiger Woods. Again, I promise you, during the 2001 Tiger Woods run at the Masters, there was no thought by any of the men to bring in Jack Nicklaus to sit there and go, well, he uses newer clubs and he's really not that great if you think about it. I promise you, there was nobody behind the scenes pulling strings in this puppet master patriarchal, creation that a lot of people have in their head that said, hey, could you legends actually talk shit about the main reason we were having these eyeballs that we've never had before? Could you do everything you could to tear them down with petty ass little comments? It wasn't us. I don't mind taking my heat when I need it, but this time it wasn't us. So Diani Turasi, who again is supposed to be an analyst, who's supposed to be, and also, it's part of the whole thing is promote the game, make it great, make it fun, instead decided to go completely the other route and act like a petty, snide, insecure, salty, jealous little hater. And it wasn't just because she's from UConn and Paige is from UConn. So this is the game. It was UConn, Iowa, and a lot of people are comparing Paige to Caitlyn. And so here was the first one. I'll play this first video. When they asked her a question of, as Caitlyn was making some long shots, do you think that if, your coach back in your day would have allowed you to take the same amount of deep threes that Caitlyn took? Let's go ahead and run that video for me here, Corey. Appreciate you.
He let her shoot logo threes.
Should I answer that?
Go ahead.
Hell no.
Okay.
He didn't even let us dribble. Not thigh passes to the side. We were playing triangle, pass, screen away, pinch post.
I bet we came off five pick and rolls our whole career.
No chance you're doing that with Coach Ramba. That's just not the way he teaches
different
basketball.
now, though. It's different.
By the way, I was playing the world's smallest violin, but women are your own worst enemy sometimes. Problem number one. Again, she was an analyst on an ESPN broadcast supposed to actually promote this thing. This is the first one, and you can just smell the jealousy here. The idea that, well, it would have been me. That would have been me. I'm probably just as good or better than Caitlyn ever was. The problem was my coach didn't let me take the shots as she did. That's the only separation between me and this girl who's getting a lot of attention and eyeballs. And for some reason, it brings out a negative little hatred part of me, some bitter, spiteful little spot where I have to sit there and go, well, my coach, if my coach would have let me do that, then I would have done it too. That is so different than anything I've ever watched where men talk about men. You hear it through Twitter and other places, but you don't hear it on the broadcast where they're paid to help promote the sport. You don't hear them go Like, again, Jack Nicklaus didn't watch Tiger Woods and go, well, he uses better clubs. If I had Tiger's clubs, he would never touch any of my records. Matter of fact, Tiger, he's kind of overrated. And I mean, really, it's just... Problem number one was definitely that. The idea that it couldn't be that she's something special. It's something like, she's getting attention. I'm feeling insecure. I'm feeling negative. I'm feeling a certain type of way. Let me say something cutting underneath in order to kind of bring it back so I don't lose what I got. So I'm going to sit out here and say, well, if I had that coach, I would have done that too. I would have been the all-time leading scorer in NCAA history, men or women's tournament, the whole thing. I just wasn't able to shoot from deep. That's my problem. So that was the first one with Diani Turasi and her little spitefulness, or as I'll call it, competitiveness. Yeah, sure, that works. Video number 2 here, and this one is even worse. So again, analysts supposed to be, impartial, give some opinions, but don't just say stupid things for no reason. They asked Diana during the broadcast in a Twitter email or something, to start a WNBA team. So to start a WNBA team, would you go with Paige Beckers from UConn or Caitlin Clark, the all-time record-setting and now obviously universal number 1 pick? Go ahead and run that for me here after they asked her that question.
I have an answer. Want me to go?
You go.
I think you have to take Caitlin for one reason, because I think you can't go wrong with choosing either one.
Right.
The fan energy behind Caitlin is going to be a game changer for a WNBA franchise. I think for that reason, right now, this year, you have to take her. From a basketball standpoint, I can make an argument for Paige.
I'm taking Paige. Next question.
So if you had the number 1 pick this year, you would take Paige over Caitlin?
Absolutely.
I like that energy.
No. You have to explain that one, Chief. You can't, and by the way, don't even give me, she's from UConn and she's from UConn, therefore that's where that came from. By the way, she sipped that cup. Read some body language. There was clearly salt and pettiness and a little bitterness in that comment. But you have to explain that one. You can't just go and say something that bananas and then go next question. Again, to give you an example to the men's side, if there was a couple guys watching, Victor Wembanyama last year, the consensus number 1 overall pick, and one of them had the nerve to say, I'd take one of the Thompson twins, or I'd take, Scoot Henderson over Victor. Next question. There's no way they would have let him get away with that. They would have been like, no. Hold on, Chief. You got to run that one back. Explain to me exactly why you think you should take Scoot or the Thompson twins over Victor. You can't just sip your cup and move on like you didn't just say some stupid shit. The idea that you can pick Paige over Caitlin in next year's draft. And by the way, it's kind of a moot point in the idea that Paige is going to come back. She's actually been injury riddled for a couple years, so she's going to come back. She's not even making herself eligible for the draft. But even before all that, at best, again, she was like a 3rd to a 5th pick overall. Caitlin is by far, like a Victor Wembanyama, the consensus number 1, every record setting, everything in the world, not to mention, as Sue mentioned, all the attention and eyeballs that she got. You don't have a metric in your entire bag other than salt and pettiness to say, I would start with Paige over Caitlin. You don't have the stats. You don't have the head-to-head matchup. She beat her in that head-to-head game. You don't have the idea of health. Again, Paige has had injury-riddled seasons for 2 years, which is usually a big scare away for most general managers when they think about who am I going to start a franchise with. You don't want to go with the injury-riddled one over the one that's never had any health issues. So you don't have the numbers, you don't have the head-to-head matchup, you don't have the health, and other than she went to your school, you had the nerve to sit there and say it with all the confidence in the world. If I started the team, I'd take Paige over Caitlin. And when asked about it, you just said, next question, and, sipped your little cup, and then the other girl said, I like that energy. Oh boy, I cannot imagine where 2 dudes would sit there and make something that wild of comment. Again, I'll take the Thompson twins over Wemby. And next question. No. Run that back. What do you mean you wouldn't take Victor Wemby? You're going to explain that one, Chief. She was able to just throw that out there because, again, she had a chance to elevate her game, the game that she loves, the game that she supports, but she chose instead to be petty as F. I mean, I don't think you'll have eyeballs like this again for probably another 20 years. Not 18.7, not 24 million. Yes, like when Tiger left golf, there's a little bit of remnants and things that'll hang around, and there'll be some stories and some things that might keep it interesting. But I promise you, WNBA is going to see much more of a surge in ratings and attention than it ever has, just like we just had in college. And so you had this one moment, literally, I'll quote the NCAA, you had a one shining moment as a women's game to come together and look cool and supportive and go against the narrative that women can't see other women succeed and they're too petty and insecure and can be nasty in their competition there. And you could have proven the otherwise and said, man, this is great for the game. This is unbelievable. I can't wait to see her come in next year. And instead, you chose to make comments, tear her down during broadcast where you're supposed to be elevating her, that are trying to get historic ratings. Again, I don't think you ever would have saw Jack Nicklaus during Tiger Woods' run sit there and bitch about his clubs or anything else. You just don't see this. And it really came down to me asking other women. They said, yeah, women can be like that. Sometimes women can be their own worst enemy when it comes to, this idea that it's a scarcity. Greatness is scarce. Success is scarce. I got to hold on to mine. You can't have yours. Let me do everything I can to kind of, keep it. And, this idea that a rising tide raises all boats, it just doesn't compute. We have different ways of thinking about how do we get to the top. Now, all that being said, shout out to Dawn Staley. If we need an example, because again, there's always, I did a lot of generalization there, and a lot of y'all can and explain to me why. But let me go ahead and say this is not all women. This is just the ones that I saw that were in charge of talking publicly, other than South Carolina champion head coach Dawn Staley. Shout out to her. So they won the title. One of the greatest teams ever assembled in any sport collegiately ever, had this unbelievable undefeated season, undefeated run. She took a moment when they asked her, do you have anything you want to say? She said this about Caitlin. I thought this was absolutely perfect. Ladies, here's an example of what I'm talking about. And some women, and it doesn't, shock me that it's a coach and someone whose job it is to help other women around her do better, be better, and get better. When they asked her after she won the title, Dawn Staley had this to say.
I really would just like to say that I have to congratulate Iowa on an incredible season. Awesome. And I want to personally thank Caitlin Clark for lifting up our sport. She carried a heavy load for our sport, and it just is not going to stop here on the collegiate tour. But when she is the #1 pick in the WNBA draft, she's gonna lift that league up as well. So Caitlin Clark, if you're out there, you are one of the GOATs of our games, and we appreciate you.
How hard was that? Rebecca Lobo, Breanna Stewart, Diani Turasi, some of the other ladies I heard. How hard was that? How difficult was it to just have some class and go, you know what, this is cool. This is great for the game. We got eyeballs we never had before. We got attention that we never had before. This is so awesome for everyone going forward, including us, and our legacies will be even more remembered as more fans expand. Why was that so difficult for so many of the other ladies? I don't live in y'all's world. I live very much in dude land. I'm in and out of it. I see it sometimes and I don't. So again, I asked my girl, I asked my mom, I asked other women. They're like, yeah, man, this is kind of how we get down. We're not proud of it. Men have a lot of things we're not proud of. They're like, we as women, we're not proud of this. But man, I tell you what, workplace, competing in any sort of situation, we can get petty, we can get salty. And the last thing a lot of us want to see is you do well. So other than Dawn Staley, and again, congrats to Dawn, a coach who her whole job is, let me help women do better, be better, act better. That's the example. That's a cool thing to see. And I'll end it on that, and I'll move on to my next topic. All right, next one. Speaking of ding-dongs and haters, Draymond still doesn't get it. Oh, I forgot this. All right, let me go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry, because I almost forgot to mention this. Let me go ahead and put this back in here. Because I was talking about how the women need to support each other more. In the end, a lot of times, unfortunately, I still think you're just going to need us. I mean, when it comes to sports, men watch sports. Again, 65% of the historic college ratings was men. Women will talk it, but they don't watch it. Even people around me, I tried to get to watch the NCAA women's games. They were pure feminists, fired up for it. They got into it, but when you asked them about it, they just couldn't support it. They just couldn't get it. They just have different interests, and that's fine. But, this was just kind of funny, and I want to throw this in here. So this guy did one of those women, man on the streets, whatever you want to call it, and he found these feminist women in New York, home of the liberty, who just made the WNBA finals last year of two of the biggest stars in the entire league, and Stewart and Ionescu. If anybody should be somewhat familiar with what's going on, are these woke, awesome feminists supporting women, other power thing, and it just didn't go that well. Go ahead and roll it.
We deserve equality, so definitely should.
On topic of women's sports, can you name any WNBA teams?
Women's sports just don't get as much publicity or as much attention as men's sports.
What's the WNBA team that plays here in New York?
Oh, I have no idea.
I mean, women deserve equal pay. They do equal amounts of work.
Can you name any WNBA players?
No, I can't. I don't like sports a lot. Yeah, I don't know.
But I think you could probably name some NBA players, right?
I could, and I think that's because it's a lot more publicized.
Who's your favorite men's basketball player? Do you have a favorite basketball?
Stephen Curry.
Stephen Curry, okay. Do you have a favorite women's basketball player?
I forgot her name.
So do you think we should apply that to the NBA and the WNBA too?
They're both playing the same sport. Women are equal to men, so I don't see why not.
Can you name any WNBA teams or WNBA players?
The New York Liberties.
That's right, yeah.
That's
Liberty,
about
but close.
as far as I'm gonna go with WNBA.
Can you name at least any players, any WNBA players?
Damn, and I know one off the top of the head. It's not gonna come off.
You know any WNBA players?
No, I really don't. I mean, I know their faces, but I'm terrible with names.
What about you? Can you name any of them?
I could either. I'm just as bad. I have terrible memory, so.
What about the WNBA team that plays here? You know, are you guys New Yorkers?
I am a New Yorker, but I didn't even know.
So again, it's just, I'm not trying to just crap on everyone, and but the idea of why I guess I and others got so frustrated, like, why are you going to tear down what's going well when clearly the WNBA and women's basketball could use what just happened? Why are other women tearing it down? I don't understand. Obviously, going forward, hopefully now, because of what happened, it will last and it will move forward. I still think it's a lot like Tiger in 2001, where golf went through a surge for a few years and then it kind of is going to tail back off. It's a solar eclipse. It doesn't happen very often, and hopefully it'll move forward. But in the end, you're going to need men's attention. We're the ones that watch sports. The annoying Joe Sixpack dude is the one who usually turns on the television. 65% of the viewership was us. The WNBA is completely funded by the NBA. Still true. WNBA still doesn't make money. The NBA has to pay for it. Moving on. Let me get into this one. So I'm talking about, hatred and ding-dongs. Let me get to the next topic here. Draymond Green still doesn't get it. And I almost need the music. Dun, 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 dun. This guy he's just never going to. How long can I sing the, is it in vogue? Never going to get it, never going to get it. That's enough there to kind of get the idea. He's just never going to get it. It's just, I'm telling you, I did a whole rant on this a couple podcasts ago. Behavioral addict. This is beyond. It's not that he's dumb. He's a smart dude, one of the highest IQ basketball players in the league. Get him to talk on his podcast, get him to talk on an interview. He's got plenty of intelligent, wonderful things to say. Draymond Green is not a stupid person. Draymond Green is a behavioral addict with impulse control problems. And, right now we have hit towards the end of the NBA season, which, let me just completely delve off. I think I'm completely now done with the women's game, at least for now till the WNBA draft and season comes along. But, let's move into the big part, the meat, the NBA season, where currently we are still about 3-4 games away from the playoffs, but there's a huge race for the play-in. 1 through 10. Right now, 5th through 10th place is only separated by 5 games, and 7 through 10 is separated by 1.5 and 2. There's a lot of moving parts that can still happen here. And at the bottom of that are the Golden State Warriors, who, thanks to, maybe Draymond missing 21 games this year because he was suspended not once, but twice. Again, maybe because we missed 21 games where he was suspended not once but twice, their record, which could have been easily towards the middle, is now at the absolute bottom, and they're in big trouble because this ding-dong can't seem to keep his shit together and missed 21 games. Maybe that has something to do with it, but last night, they played the Lakers here in Los Angeles, and it was a great game. They went nuts. They set a franchise record for threes. Draymond Green played great. He had 5 of 5 threes in the first half, which I've never seen Draymond Green. Even Reggie Miller was watching oh, man, it's honorary Splash Brother night. This is crazy. Draymond Green never shoots like this. Played phenomenal. The team played phenomenal. They got a must-win game against the Lakers team that they're racing for in the playoffs. They did all this wonderful stuff. Draymond did all this wonderful stuff, and then at some point, he still had to be Draymond. Now, he didn't get kicked out. He didn't get suspended or kicked out or anything, but this continues. So again, let me bring it all back. is Draymond just doesn't get it here. There's a few games left in the season. Every single game counts in this play-in tournament. We are probably where we are in 10th spot because you have gotten suspended for 21 of those games. Just so you know, they're 32-21 with Draymond. They're 11-14 without. So we're probably in the spot that we're in because you missed over 20 games being suspended twice. We need it. We are doing great. You are doing great. You're shooting lights out. And then he decides to pull this little shit. Go ahead and cut to this one. Now, he didn't get kicked out or suspended for this. But, I mean, this is, once again, what I'm talking about when I say Draymond doesn't get it. Draymond Green just doesn't get it. You're playing great. We're winning. It's a must-win game, and look at him. Bitch. Zero impulse control. The fact he didn't get a tech is phenomenal, and due to the patience of the refs, we had to have the assistant coach come try to drag his dumb ass out of there because as smart as he can be and as intelligent and unbelievably, unselfish and great as he can be, he's like a pit bull at a foster home or something. Like, he sees red, he can't turn it off. And it's like, dude, if there was ever a time, could you just cut the shit? And I've even, I wasn't even kidding the last time when I said do the zero tolerance to where he can't talk to refs, he can't talk to other players, anybody not with a Golden State Warriors logo, he's not allowed to talk to them because he can't figure it out. Like a pit bull when you have to put the big muzzle thing on it because when you walk it, because it might bite someone. Usually it doesn't, but sometimes it just does, and we don't even know why. That's kind of where we're at with this dude because they still need him. And the sad part is they really still, them and both the Lakers could win the title. Even though they're both the 9th and 10th spot, they have the talent, the championship experience. They have the bench. They have, enough weapons and things they could do. And other than Denver, there's really nobody else that's really truly on another level. They could make the NBA Finals. But you got to get this guy to figure it out. You got to get this guy to stop. And rather than do that, he continued to again, just pull his little nonsense. And then this was the interesting part, and I want to lead to this. So he does his podcast. It's actually a great podcast. Draymond Green podcast. Look it up. He pulled this move. And as I've compared him again to behavioral addiction and acting like an addict, one thing an addict will do is they'll ask their enabler to, quote unquote, be honest with them. And he pulled that here with Klay Thompson. So he's got Klay on his show. And again, he's not dumb. Draymond is a lot of things. He is not stupid. He knew who to ask and who to bring on to ask this question. And he was like, hey, what do you think about my antics and getting suspended and all that? And Klay, I had to give you the edited version. Klay gives this 3.5-minute long-winded rant, and it's all sandwich. He used the sandwich method, which a lot of enablers and nice people will do, which is, a nice comment, mean, nice, and let me sandwich it in. So, I mean, again, so Draymond, knowing who he was asking and why he was asking him, hey, what do you think about me getting in trouble and all that? Klay gave this blabbering, long-winded thing. This one is edited down, but again, he knew his audience and he knew who to ask. So let me run that here for you. This is the next one. This is on his podcast, asking Klay Thompson, what do you think? And Klay was being Klay.
I'm very afraid of this, but be brutally honest with you. When I get ejected or something of that nature or suspended, what do you feel? How do you feel? It's going to crush me, but I need to hear it.
When you're not out there, it's like a piece of us is gone. We could never be ourselves and have the freedom we do on the court without you. So I know the other team is very happy you're not out there. They relax a little bit. They let their hair down because our muscle's gone. Our enforcer, the heartbeat of our team is not out there. We've been through so many battles, reached the mountaintop, been down the mountain, had to climb back up. And now we have another real shot at this. So at the end of the day, we just need you. And that like disappointment and that feeling of shaking your head, that just comes from like, dang, man, we can't do this without you. And we're not the Warriors without Money Green. That's just a fact.
Klay's a nice guy. And again, that was edited. That was him. There was 2.5 minutes of him trying his best to use the sandwich method to be like, you're a great dude and we need you. No. But you're awesome at this. And we can't win without you at the championships. But he did everything he could to try to protect it. And I think, again, I know addicts, I know addict behavior. You will ask the person, the enabler, you'll ask the nice one to give you that quote unquote honest answer because he knew the real answer would be too scary. Because the real answer should have been, dude, you're very useful to us and we love you, but God damn it, you're out of control. Like you never stop. When we shake our heads now, it's out of frustration and just complete helplessness. Like we don't know what to do with you. It's ridiculous. You're suspended again. You've been suspended twice. You're still arguing. You told us you went to all this management and this anger therapy and all this other stuff. You still can't seem to figure it out. You try almost every other game to get ejected, and we need you, but God dang it, stop. Like, we don't know. This is when we shake our heads, we don't know what to do. As much as we love you, we can't get you to stop. And so at some point, you just kind of go, yeah. You shake your head out of frustration, not out of all this. He was trying to, because I love you. No. It's a head shake of just like, dude, God dang it. God dang it. Can you ever cut it out? He can't. Draymond doesn't get it. He'll never get it because he's never really been held his feet to the fire. And until people like him, and a lot of times, again, the smartest one in the room, I've met a lot of smart people with addiction problems, and that's even worse because they can finagle and find ways to talk themselves into why they don't have to change. One of the smartest ways to do it, let me get one of my big teammates who I know is like the nicest guy on the team and let him give this bullshit response so I can go, oh man, that's really hard for me to hear. That was some tough truth. No, it wasn't, because the real truth would have been, dude, cut the shit. Stop. It's ridiculous. You're a grown-ass man, dog. Stop it. All right, I'll stop there because honestly, it's all a joke anyways. Let me go ahead and go to the next topic here as far as the play-in. The fact is, maybe the Warriors don't need to go up as far as they can into the playoff seeding because Denver and OKC and Minnesota are all currently in this cluster F situation of like 1 game separation. There could be, because there's a chance for the Warriors or the Lakers to move up to the 7th seed. Well, congratulations, you might get Denver, and nobody wants Denver. The play-in joke, as I use that, I don't know if you have any comic book fans out there, but the Killing Joke, the Joker, famous comic, moving on. The play-in joke here is that nobody wants Denver, and Denver might actually fall to 2. So you can do all this work, whether it's the Lakers, whether it's the Kings, whether it's not the Suns anymore, but it's the Warriors. There's some teams at the bottom there that are all fighting and hoping they can get up and fight for that 7th spot. You might still get stuck with this psycho. You might still get stuck with the Joker, and that's the only team in the West you truly need to avoid. So the joke's on us. The joke's on us. You can do all this work to get a better seed. You might still be stuck with the defending champs who have the Joker, who's going to be the MVP most likely again this year. Him and Jamal Murray are the healthiest of the top teams. Again, it's Minnesota, and you got Denver, and you got Oklahoma City that are kind of in a close tie for a 3-way there. Now, Denver is the only team that I truly think is a level above everybody else, not only because they are the defending champs. Again, they are the healthiest of the group. You have Minnesota, who's going to get Karl Anthony Towns back, but that could be actually a big problem. He could be out of shape with only a couple games left, plus the chemistry. There's all sorts of issues going on there. OKC is much like Steph. They are SGA driven, and that's it. He's been in and out lately with injuries. So both the other top teams have stars that have injury issues, and chemistry issues are going to have some problems there. Denver has none of those problems. They got little injuries here and there, but Jokic and Murray are ready to go. They're the defending champs. And if you remember, a lot of people don't because no one really wants to give them their credit or watch them. What they did last year was Shaq and Kobe. They were the 1-2 punch that did, look up the stats, this historic run was because Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic were just unstoppable. So the one team you want to avoid is Denver. And there are some big games coming up. Today, hopefully I'll get the podcast out much later tonight, but, the Nuggets and Timberwolves play each other. That'll probably decide first place, but there's still the Pelican Kings on Thursday. There's the Pelicans and the Warriors, the Suns and the Kings on Friday. You got the Lakers and Pelicans and the Mavs and the Thunder Sunday. And so there's a lot of big games here where everything can be flipped around. It is still very fluid and still very, I don't know. So I can't give you any previews yet because I don't know who's going to be where. The only thing I can tell you is right now, the only team I will tell you to just completely avoid and just run from is the Denver Nuggets. And, did I mention, by the way, they're 30-8 at home? So they're going to have home court on almost any team that they play. They're 30-8 at home. They're damn near unbelievably impossible to beat there. The only team that's better at home than him is Boston. I didn't even talk about the Eastern Conference because Eastern Conference is a waste of time. Boston's going to the finals. We already know that. In the West side, if you can avoid Denver, you have a shot. Whoever gets stuck with them, the joke's on you. You can do all this work and all these teams that are like, oh, yay, we get to play for the 7th seed. Congratulations. You might have Denver at 2, and you're effed. So joke's on you. Do I have time? How am I doing on time? What am I doing? Nice. I got a few more minutes left. Let me go ahead and move on. I want to do one last segment, and then we'll call it a day. I want to call this one Deep Trouble. Deep Trouble. So Mark Twain famously once said a long time ago, a lie travels halfway around the world before the truth even has time to tie its shoes. Basically, that even when he was around, that, lies and gossip will spread way before the truth can ever have a chance to get out there. And thanks to the computer age, it's only getting worse. And now thanks to deep fakes, It's getting bananas. It is absolutely just, it's mind-blowing what we are able to make people look like they say, and they didn't say it at all. It's all artificially intelligent. It's all just created through a computer. And so this one, I'll play the video for it. This was Caitlyn. Caitlyn did not say a word of this. Most people did not buy it, but look how real this looks. This is, they had, quote unquote, Caitlyn Clark in a deep fake, and they asked her some questions. Go ahead and play it.
Paige Beckers, Angel Reese. None of these little girls can mess with me or the refs. They thought they had us, but I was pulling that thing from damn near 40. And LeBron, if you're listening, I know you need help because Bronny's not going to cut it. If he's declaring for the NBA draft, why can't I? The only thing holding me back is Draymond Green. He's too out of control, and I'm worried he might beat my ass like he did to Jordan Poole. But in all seriousness, stop comparing me to Paige Beckers and Angel Reese because they aren't on my level. It's just big me.
Now, none of that's real. Absolutely not a word of that is real. That's just, again, this is deepfakes. This is something that actually came from porn. I don't know if people know this. This whole technology started because nerds wanted to see their famous movie actresses have sex on camera, so they would put their face on a body and figured out how to make it happen. And in just a few years, we've gone from like very obvious to that. That wasn't perfect, but that was pretty close, man. And again, as I've talked about before, a lot of people in sports don't need facts to have an opinion. It doesn't take much. We just had recently April Fools. This is a perfect example. In April Fools, they did these silly posts of like, oh, this guy went here, or this guy did this, or this girl went over there. And all of it was obviously an April Fool's joke, but they left the post up. So a lot of people didn't read it till April 2nd, April 3rd, April 4th, and they thought it was real. So even just a, static just picture and some words, if, in the wrong hands, can be taken as quote unquote the truth. Now we got this going on. This is like, that wasn't bad. That was pretty close. That was a pretty, like, if you didn't already like her and somebody showed that to you and you were able, imagine what we're going to be able to do now with, politicians, with people celebrities who may be in trouble with the law, anybody that the quote unquote big brother wants to take down. That is deep trouble. Again, Mark Twain said it best: a lie travels halfway around the world before the truth can even tie its shoes. And with this type of technology, I had one more extra one. This was also another Iowa. This was the football coach. Again, none of this is real. Not a word of what he's about to say is quote unquote real. Go ahead.
You all have had fun with this 25-point obsession, and I get it. I do. But if I'm not mistaken, we just dropped 41 on Saturday. So maybe it's time to grab a hold of your little step ladders and go ahead and climb out of my ass for a while.
Again, it'd be great if he said it. If Coach Ferentz said that, that'd be awesome. And I'd laugh my ass off. He didn't. It's all made up. It's all fugazi. It's all artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is going to take us all down. I'm using it now. I'm having fun with it. But man, I really, Will Smith and iRobot. We got 1 million movies on this. I don't understand how we're so just happily just taking ourselves to our own destruction. I truly am one. That's the most tinfoil thing I have, is that we're going to get taken down by AI and robots. I fully believe it. Fully believe it. All right, I had time for one little last one here. I was talking about this. This will encapsulate my earlier point of, man, sometimes women are women's worst enemy. If this doesn't encapsulate it, I don't know where this was. Looks like a sorority or something somewhere. But man, if I ever needed proof that sometimes women can be meaner to women than men ever could, click on this next one. This is just a quick one. We'll go ahead and call it a day here. This is just some sorority girl somewhere. Oh! Now, there's so much to break down in just a short amount of time. But this girl just completely concussed herself. I mean, she could be snapped in half. Watch her friend again. Play it one more time. Watch her friend as she just, dead. You dead? Nah, that's cool. Just kept it pushing. Not an "are you okay?" Not a "hey, is your neck in the right place?" Just flipped her hair and kept on walking. And that doesn't kind of, get to my point there. I don't know what else does. Yeah. So I got to go. Don't do that, by the way. Don't jump downstairs the mattresses and bang your head against the wall. And yeah, that's it. I'm out.